It was never me, but her and everybody. You once told me you had no type, that you just love a woman's body. You said tall, skinny, fat, short, it doesn't matter to me. And I remember being jealous. How could I compete with her over there, her velvety, smooth, dark skin, or the pale-faced redhead that eyed you when we first walked in, the albino Amazon with her long blonde braids, or the older woman over there, her rockin' body but her plain face. See, in the beginning, it was just our bodies, our intertwining souls. We dreamed of you and me's, of building together and growing old. You planted your seed and it grew and it stretched my body. And now we have her. She's a little us, not just anybody. She's a product of what I thought and what felt to me like love. But I'm a bird. Silly raven impersonating a dove. Having your baby didn't make me a somebody. Not when you chose to lay with so many other bodies. Her and her and her and every fucking body. It doesn't matter if I go to the gym and work on my body. It will never be enough to catch and keep your wondering eyes, no matter how soft my skin or how juicy my thighs. When we order chicken, you don't even stick to one kind of meat. You dive in and put your hand on every piece like a king on his throne, entitled to some sort of love feast. And I just want you to narrow your options down to me, homie. To me. Strong single mother, just trying to embody the kind of woman who takes care of herself and everybody. To me, a gap-toothed girl with a gentle heart, and it speaks for you. I've loved you so hard. What would it take for you to love me too? I am not ugly. Inside, I am oh so pretty. So let's run away and have more babies and move out of the city. But you are held here by her and that one over there. I see new selfies in your Samsung. In spite of the privacy screen glare, there are filtered out photos all up on your Google Drive, and that shit burns me up with jealousy. And that's how those bitches thrive. I have connived and I've thrown myself at you with a full-bodied force, and now I'm tired, and this loneliness feels much worse than my divorce. I can no longer vie and fight for your affections. I want the trophy of you. Fuck your honorable mention. I have to give up on you. I have to admit defeat. I feel like I'm wading through throngs of people on your crowded streets, and just when I stop, think that I've caught your eye and that you notice me, you turn to her, give her your affections, and I am back to nobody. Whew. Hey guys, hey. I'm not filming or anything. I just have to make sure I got the airplane mode. I'm practicing for a gig tonight, and I might do that piece. And I thought it was appropriate for the self-love journey and talking about self-worth. Because that's one of the poems I wrote, gets out a lot of angst about, just kind of like the shitty things that I've been putting up with in relationships, dealing with relationship anxiety, and getting to the root of, self-love and self-worth and building my self-esteem. So, welcome to Whiskey Girls Bust It Wide Open series, where, I'm busting it wide open and sharing about all this deep inner work I've been doing since quarantine. I don't want to say since quarantine. I've been on this path for a very long time, probably since I began my poetry journey. And I just didn't know I was on this path. So now everything's kind of settling in, and I'm overstanding what this is. And it feels beautiful. It's just a lot of L's in there too. And it's so funny, I feel like such an asshole with my timing, but when it comes to creativity, I hope my patrons just rock with me, because I'm always thinking of you, and I'm always thinking of giving good content And when it comes to providing good content, my little speaker over here, when it comes to providing good content, sometimes my intuition kind of tells me, I'm such a gypsy, right? But my intuition tells me, there are a lot of lessons that have to catch up before I can truly speak on the topic. And I'm kind of like going through levels and waves of this growth. And it might be controversial for some people because a lot of people believe that you have to get to the end of your tunnel, the end of your journey before you can talk about it or teach. And in my book, I feel like teaching is kind of a strong word that scares people away and make them feel like they have to be perfect. And I never want to perpetuate anything like that. I'm just an imperfect ass bitch. I'm fucked up. But I want people to see me fucked up in it because you gotta know that healing is not just you come out on the other side living your life like it's golden. Like, I feel beautiful. To be honest, I feel the most beautiful I've ever felt in my life, and it's freeing. But I'm lonely, and I've lost so much, and it hurts. So there's a balance, and I just like to talk about that stuff. So, the self love journey, self worth, self esteem, and boundaries. Apologies for the chirping. I live in an apartment. Like, what do you want? Like, if I get more patrons, maybe I can like move it on up. But some shit's going on in the hallway, or whatever. So apologies for that. And I hope the lighting is okay. I like it. It's a little bright for me. I'm, that kind of girl. I was gonna. Okay, maybe I won't. I won't do that. But I want to get into this. So, when it comes to the self love journey, we all know what I believe. And just by the word journey, like, it's not going to end. There's so many layers to it. And I've learned to redirect my thinking to be so positive, right? So, my thought is exciting because, like, if there's so much, imagine, like, if I'm 36 and I love myself this much after all I've been through, I'm on this whole journey. I feel like I'm in the middle. I feel like I'm in a good place. And it's like, it's a journey. It's throughout a lifetime. So it's like you just kind of get deeper into loving yourself. It's like you fall in love with new parts of yourself each day. And as an innovator, I love that idea because I feel myself like hungry and learning and growing at such a rate where it's like I'm constantly going to be like metamorphosizing into like a new person, and that's beautiful. I'm excited about it. So the fact that self-love is a journey, that a lot of these things are journeys, it took me a while to wrap my head around it. I was like, fuck a journey. I'm trying to accomplish some shit. I'm trying to get to the top of the mountain. I'm trying to be good. I don't want to be crazy anymore. But it's so funny. My thinking on that has opened up so much more. So here's where we are, accepting the journey of self-love. Really, I would say returning to writing was probably the initial start on this. In high school, well, middle school too, I used to write short stories. That's my first love, but I do have anxiety about going back to that because my stories are very dark. Oh my goodness. So I used to write short stories and pass them around to my high school friends, and that was like my thing. And then I got married shortly after high school. I was very young, and it was just not a good idea. But I thought that's what you do. You just kind of attach yourself to a man, and you make a home and find happiness. So he was a little bit nosy about my writing, which is fine and typical of like couples and shit. But it made me very insecure. So I just packed the writing away because I didn't feel like I had a space where I could write, and I just stopped. After he and I ended up splitting up. We'll go into that later. After that happened, and I was mourning the marriage and grieving because I never thought I would get divorced. Like, I was such a devout Christian, Seventh day Adventist, church girl. Yeah. Then I didn't even believe in divorce, so the fact that I had to get one was super controversial, and it just weighed heavily on me. And I needed to release, and I was like, bitch, you got to turn to writing. And a lot of other things took place to lead to that, but basically I decided writing would be a good outlet, so I started my Embrace the Crazy blog, which still exists today. It's on my website, whiskeyandpoetry.com. And if you go to the blog site, you can see kind of how it's progressed. But I started that, and it was just amazing. It felt like returning back to who I am. I feel kind of like I feel now, just knowing that there's an awakening in it. So knowing that expressing myself, that writing is a part of me, and returning to that part of me built my self-esteem. It was difficult after my divorce because in my family it's just kind of a big deal if you're married, and in the black community it's just kind of like your attachment to a man kind of signifies your worth, and it's something that's ingrained in you that you don't really think about consciously. So I didn't realize how kind of like desperate I was to just be attached to some man or to be married and to make this life for me without thinking about what I wanted as an individual. And I don't want to attach my worth to someone. So as I kind of, and I've always struggled with insecurities, but low self-esteem was a tough sell for me. Like, I can be depressed and I can get down on myself about certain things, but I think at my core that, and I don't know if this is good or not because we're supposed to be like, well, nobody's special. At my core, I've always felt like a purpose. I felt like greater. I felt like pushing against people who would try to invalidate my emotions or the things that I'm saying or observing, or people would just push back at me in general. There's always been something in my spirit that's like, oh, but I I feel purpose driven, and I feel like if a purpose is bigger than you, you have to keep pushing forward, in out of like low self esteem. So I've always had like, I'm aware of these insecurities I have. I'm not sure if I have low self esteem, and I think that is kind of where this I have this level of brokenness in me, right? And the insecurity comes from, just yearning for love, just being kind of an intensely emotional person and wanting to be able to share that with somebody, wanting to have something that's reciprocal, where I feel like I'm putting into something and you're pouring into me, and it's like this beautiful cycle. And I think it's okay to want those things, but I think sometimes we get caught up in wanting it too badly, and then our I guess priorities get skewed in when we do show up in the relationship. And I don't want to say we, because this is about me, right? When I was showing up in relationships desperate, and I didn't even realize that shit till now. And I was like, oh, bitch, you was desperate. That is not cute. Like, yeah, the me now is like grimacing, like, bitch, you can't be doing that stuff. Like, I was pulling up places, and oh my god, ugh, ill, gross. So just that. It's that obsessive love as I look into like trauma and how it affects the body, and how if you've gone through things like through traumas in your life, how it jumpstarts your nervous system, and if you're always in that fight or flight mode, then that's kind of where you get that. I have abandonment issues, so if I'm always worried a nigga's gonna leave me, then I'm always feeling that, and I'm always looking through the lens of like, a nigga's gonna leave me. So it's very stressful, and it's very obsessive. And on this leg of my journey, I started to look into that honestly. The poem that I did, Bodies, uh, basically it was something I dealt with, and all of my poems are amalgamations of all the niggas who have harmed me, right? So it's just something I've dealt with as far as men kind of being open about not being faithful, about that being like a serious difficulty in relationships, and then on top of it being a reality because the dating apps and stuff, sometimes men just talk to women because they're bored. And when I tried dating apps, there were a lot of dudes on there with girlfriends, and for me it was scary. And then you hear the rhetoric about monogamy is not normal and animals weren't made to, and I was like, I think we have self control though, and if monogamy is something that you want in a relationship and you guys discuss it, then you are capable of doing that. It's not like you're not having sex. I think that um, we've allowed ourselves to just be. This is me. Oh my God, I'm sounding like my old like uptight church self, but as I regulate myself more, I think a lot about what's hedonistic and what's self indulgent and what are like practical sacrifices we can make for people to be a greater good and better people and better, more humane society. And that's kind of one of them. And the whole like assholes and cutting people off, y'all know how I feel about that. It's kind of like, for the assholes that feel like they're so tough, for the mean people who are so tough, who are so, type A, what is it for you to dial it down for the sensitive souls? Why do we always have to step up out of our anxiety into your space of, maybe you're not right, maybe that's not a good vibe. So anyway, with all this self-worth stuff, it got really deep. I always thought that I had a sense of self-worth, but it cracked open for me. You guys know I do this podcast, and we have these conversations about black men versus black women and kind of like the psyche and what's going on in pop culture and how it relates to white supremacy. So we were talking about something, and a gripe that came up, and a theme that I noticed amongst like a couple of my black dude friends I was talking to is they were saying they seem so frustrated that black women don't love themselves. And it struck with me, and it just sat with me for a very long time. It sat here, and I was just like, I love myself. But what does that mean? Why do they think we don't love ourselves? And I realized that this was me getting deep into this. Like, I love myself though. And then you say it. You know how you keep saying something over and over, and then you're like, but do I believe that, or am I just saying it? And I was like, it was like one of those sitcoms. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. So, my God. It's been a painful leg of the journey because I realized a lot of the things I do and the way that I show up is not a reflection of love for myself. And yes, I have a love and general regard for myself, but the kind of love that I've been expelling out to other people, the kind of deep love that I've allowed myself to feel for men in romantic relationships, I have not felt that for myself. And, I kind of am thinking like, how could I have poured so much into someone else and not given that to me first? Like, in the whole concept of black women don't love themselves, and looking into how we're raised in our culture, especially black American women, it's like, who was supposed to teach us to love ourselves? Because a lot of black women, and especially in our culture, we attach our self-worth to what we can do and how we can sacrifice for other people. So I've been blowing this whole thing wide open, that and then reading on all these, like, because my Instagram is just chock full of all mental health sites, and they be getting in deep, these little psychiatrists and psychologists who have their own Instagram pages, and they be doing the TikToks looking all stuffy, but I be hip, I be feeling it. So I mean, there was a really powerful post. I might actually pull it up on my phone because it was just so striking to me. And it hit the nail on the head with what I've been struggling with, because in relationship, I'm a very soft and nice and kind person. And that's where I want to be. I want something where I can pour love into someone who gets that I feel like that's what I'm on this earth to do. So I'ma love you. But then I started to think like, why doesn't this fulfill me, or why, when does reciprocity start to feel like tit for tat and start to feel like every time you do something for someone, you immediately want something back, and something about that exchange didn't feel right to me, and something about the exchange of always like martyring yourself and going the extra mile for your man, because without checking where that's coming from. So I want to read this. It changed my life. If you tend to overfunction and or overgive in your relationships, then you probably give until the point of resentment. One of the hallmarks of codependency is our addiction to control. We control ourselves in order to get what we want. So we control others in order to get what we want. So we meet someone new and become everything we think they want instead of showing up as we are. We start to audition and perform with the expectation that we will be chosen. Once we have been chosen, then we become people pleasers in order to keep the relationship going. People pleasers don't necessarily give out of the kindness of their hearts. They give to be seen, to be recognized as having value. They are auditioning / performing for love because they don't truly believe they inherently deserve it. When the recipient of their giving doesn't reciprocate or acknowledge it, that tends to be about not feeling seen or significant. People pleasers tend to give with the expectation of a return on their investment, hence the upset when it isn't reciprocated. They are also upset because they are losing control of the situation and unable to manipulate their partner's experience of them. Oh, God. They are also giving in this way as a way to mother them, which is about control and emotional unavailability. And that's from the Instagram site Loving Me After We. Definitely follow that site. But my God, like, just pull all my cards. And that, I was like, this is too deep. Honestly, I went to counseling maybe like 2-3 years ago, and I was given, the codependency book. I'm sure you've heard of it. I forget what it's called off top, but it was a lot for me to read. I wasn't there yet. But that was something that sat with me from that book. That book talked about how this overgiving, this overworking, this overloving comes from a low self-worth of wanting someone to love you for those things and love you for those acts. So it's so interesting because I've been looking into Black culture and talking to my Black guy friends and stuff, and a lot of them love that about me, that I'm a giver, that I go the extra mile, that I'm all, I want to give you your roses and stuff. And I realize a lot of men, I don't know if it's men in general, but Black men have their love language is, acts of service. So if in our culture, Black women are taught to kind of martyr ourselves, and the men tend towards, acts of service, it seems like it's a happy kind of like cycle. But I just started to realize that as far as self-worth goes, I was getting into that contract and into that cycle in my relationship because I was so afraid of losing the person. It was like, if I work really hard, then I know that they'll know I'm working hard, so they will want me. And then it was something for me to feel good about myself if things ended. It's like, well, I gave my all. All of it. But then it's kind of like, if you're giving your all, but then you become resentful and you're like slowly seeping a poison into the relationship because you're low key insecure in the corner, pretending like you're happy doing all of these things. And furthermore, when you get into like narcissistic empath relationships, side note, I don't particularly believe in that. I think it both are different sides of the same coin, and it's all childhood trauma. And I don't necessarily believe that narcissists lack empathy. I just think that, we are so fucked up we can't get it together. I say that as I think I'm a narcissist. I'm an empathic narcissist. I'm a little bit of both. I mean, a bitch has been fucking up, but when it comes to the empath narcissistic relationship, just for shits and giggles, we'll call it that. You know, givers tend to attract, narcissists who want that emotional supply where they just feed off your ego and they know you're going to hustle for their love. And I realized I kept attracting those relationships. I'm a little better about it in friendships, but when it comes to a dominant male, bitch can't handle it. I'm just like, so what are we doing? Take me. So, but I realized that I was attracting relationships where it's just like they love me giving like that. They love me, going above and beyond. But I'm not sure. I wasn't getting the same thing back. And it didn't feel good. And it didn't feel like honoring me. And where I am in my self love journey, how this all kind of broke open. And I'll talk about more about unpacking and defining childhood trauma. That's the next video. But I want to say, getting kind of deeper into it, I realized that you really are supposed to be loved because you are you. And if you really want to do relationships right, then you have to come to the table with that obviously authenticity. I'm all about that. But you have to come to the table with pure intentions and with the understanding that this is a beautiful thing we create together, but we have to be mindful of codependency. We have to be mindful of you being an individual outside of me. And we have to be mindful of leaning so hard into each other that we're compromising so much, and we're both standing outside of ourselves to please each other. And looking into that, it's so hard, right? Because something about those relationships feel good. I feel good in relationships where I just know I'm loving and giving on my man. But the more I grow in my spiritual journey, or whatever the fuck this is, I keep calling it a midlife crisis. But the more I grow in this journey, I like my alone time. I like to chill by myself. I don't want to be all up in somebody's emotional space all the time. And I think that's me kind of growing into my self-worth, is that it kind of propelled me into the selfish season a little bit. I was just like, no, I just want to pour into me, because I realized with myself, my low self-worth and my low self-esteem, issues, I was inviting in these relationships that were just kind of making me minimize myself even more. And like I said earlier, I resent the fact that I was pouring that level of love into men who were not pouring that into me. So my thought now is, what does that look like if I pour that into myself? Like, bitch. And just the thought in the meditation, I keep telling my girls and my women's network, clean up your Instagram so it's all inspirational, because it gets into your psyche and it helps to change your mindset. Because my mindset on all of this is like, of course I'm the only one who knows how to love me best. I sit with me. I'm in my mind. I know I'm fucking crazy. I know how I'm crazy. I know what's going on. I know everything. So it's like, I'm the expert on me. I can love me. And instead of like trying to pour this love out, which is funny because I am an INFJ and our major talent is introverted, like intuitive thinking, like my inner core, who I am, whatever vibe needs to come out of me, whatever mood I need to be in that day, it's all in me. Like literally, it's in my personality type to go sit with myself, to present as a better person, to cleanse, to grow. I'm not an extrovert. I don't need to be around people. I need to be in my own space and energy. So I feel like God's just been telling me this, and it's like, if you start to pour that love into yourself, it feels selfish, it's tough. But if you start to pull that love into yourself, it's just kind of an inner light you have. And I'm working on that. I'm working really hard, too hard. I gotta turn my brain off. I'm trying to like end generational traumas like ASAP. So I'm like harping on everybody and getting on everyone's fucking nerves. But it's fine. I'm working on it. But all that to say that I lost my train of thought actually, and that's okay. A bitch is imperfect. But all that to say, yeah, and I was saying it feels like being a little selfish, but I feel the change and I feel the difference, and I feel that I'm starting to see the difference in how people respect and regard me, because I feel like this obsessive love thing and this obsessive like chasing after people, I just didn't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. And it's kind of like if I'm working on myself, if I'm trying to be a vibe and a good person and spread love and joy, then let me be this. And then you come to me and we can exchange energy. I'm not in a season of chasing after anybody's love or approval because I've done it so long. And being an artist, it's easy to default into that or to get sidetracked by that, falling into somebody's approval. And I'm just over it. I am over it. I am over it. I'm over it. I'm over it. So I am like so in love with your girl right now. I mean, homegirl is working. I'm doing the work. I'm losing people. I'm fucking up shit along the way. I don't want to make it seem like I'm still crazy. The thing that was getting me down a little bit is just like the realization or the thought that I might have to deal with this anxiety for the rest of my life. And that's tough to think about. That's tough because I just want to be like clear minded. I want to turn my brain off. I want to enjoy things without overthinking them. But it's more of like, how do I redirect this? And I'm still working on like regulating my nervous system, doing my yoga, like going for my walk so I can just like calm that whole obsessive, I need something, I have a hole that needs to be filled and I need a man to fill it. And it's just, I don't. I mean, dick is nice. Mm. Um wow. But, it's just, it's not what it is right now. It does get lonely at times, but I think getting to the root of the self worth stuff is the money in it is just like I understand that I have to feel this pain. I understand I have to sit with this loneliness in it, because I just have to stand those tests when another narcissist with his fine ass approaches me. Then I can determine and know, when so that when people come into my atmosphere I can have more discernment. So it's just time for me to like sit within my intuition and myself and in my self-worth. And it's been tough because I do find myself defaulting back into like old coping mechanisms that aren't good for me. Like I've been trying to like get my pussy licked and all of that and stuff. So I've been trying to like taper things off and go for my walks and jump on like more of the wellness stuff to keep going. But yeah, the anxiety's been there, while thinking about all this stuff. But the thing I want to say is that I was so worried about the concept of boundaries. I've been reading books on boundaries and how it relates to self-worth. And I felt like no one ever really mapped it out for me. And it always seems like easier said than done, especially when you realize that when you start saying boundaries, they sound like really harsh to people. And who wants to deal with that, right? So the concept of boundaries I've always had in mind, and I've slowly been like being intentional about incorporating more. Like, how do I feel about this? What do I want? Does this make me comfortable, kind of thing? And I think as I grow into just like loving myself so deeply, I automatically know. Oh no, I'm not putting up with that. I was at the nail salon, like, no, you cut this cuticle to the like. This is not me. I'm usually like easygoing, go with the flow, and I thought this was my personality, but it came from that people pleasing thing, from the like, I want to be known as easygoing so that you'll like me. And I was like, no, I want what I want. If I'm here paying for a service and you're cutting my cuticle, and I'm like, then like, hey, you cut my cuticle. Be careful with this nail at the very fucking least. And then later he's like, oh, you got cut? And I was like, no, you cut me. You did. You'd be surprised how people try to get over on you. And it's not even because they're particularly liars or bad people. We just kind of live in this age where people gaslight themselves. You can have your social media. You can portray yourself as a certain person on the inside. You can have a lot of very nice things on bad credit and, everything else. So we get to live out these fantasy lives. And, I'm whiskey girl. I get it. But we have to stay true to our realities. And I think some people just inadvertently invalidate us a little bit, and we just have to be clear about those boundaries. And I was so worried about how boundaries look and how to enforce them and what to do. And it really just comes naturally after the work that I'm putting in, after I don't even want to say work, after the care that I'm putting into myself. When I walk past the mirror, the way I speak to myself is not the way it was before. And they tell you all this stuff and you feel like you're faking the funk, but no, 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 no. It's so real. It's so real. And it's so interesting because I feel like, God wants this for us to pour into ourselves so we have more to pour out into other people. And I feel that it feels like a purposeful journey. And things fell into place more naturally than I thought. The way that I think and regard myself is sacred. When people push against those boundaries, it's an immediate nah. Here's what we're not going to do, and here's why. And it doesn't have to be anything that's like, what you're not going to do, because I'm not that person either. But I'm also not going to let people run all over me for the sake of trying to be easygoing or to be liked or to fit in. And I did realize that that was one of my major problems. And why I kind of stay out of the scene a little bit, because I like to kind of like hop in and spread good vibes, and then people get on my fucking nerves, and I'm like, so I just leave. So, you'll see me at an event, and then I'm just like, I'm dipping out before people start getting on my fucking nerves. And I realize that there's also a part of it that's kind of like the thing I read said, controlling the rhetoric about me. In that if somebody crosses a boundary and I have to put them in their place, I don't want that reputation of me being out there of like Whiskey the ball buster, she went off and blah blah blah. And then I realized I gotta chill and let the chips fall where they may, because you stay in your own energy and you don't really care what other people think about you. And that's the thing that's solidifying with the self-worth as well, is that I know who I am. I've been spending time with me. So if people don't fuck with that, they can go. That's fine. Like, I get it. I understand all of that. And there are billions of people on this planet. I do not expect everybody to like me. I don't like everybody for the most part. But I think I'm so in love with how boundaries just fell into place. They really did. And so if that's something that you're struggling with, asserting yourself and boundaries, it all is rooted back to your self-love journey. It's all rooted back to what you are pouring into yourself, how you are speaking to yourself, what you are speaking into your life, what you are saying. And as soon as you solidify positivity and how to parent your inner child, and it shows self-compassion, give yourself a break, you get into the mood, you unbrainwash yourself from all these negative rhetorics you've been saying, and it falls into place. So I was very, and you can read some books about boundaries. There's literally a book called Boundaries. So that's the path is beautiful. I am not the same woman who penned those hurt poems of men who have used her and not appreciated her value. And I am ashamed to say, and it took me a long time to get here. No, I'm not ashamed to say, it just is what it is. I didn't appreciate my value. And one of the main things I realized when it comes to my self worth, I've been treating myself as less than because I know behind the scenes how I struggle with my mental health issues, and it makes me feel like everyone's normal, and because I'm crazy I have to hide it. And now I look at it as like, look, crazy bitch, you've done a lot, you crazy bitch. And if people see you crazy, freaking out, having an anxiety tag, or just, popping off, or whatever, you are in your authenticity in that moment, you're working on it internally. And that's beautiful that you're even there in that mindset. So I feel good. And I'll end with a poem because I do have this gig tonight and I think I'm going to perform this. And I'm just so in love with myself. And, I'm sharing my own little journey, and I hope that it inspires you to love on yourself this way. And that's my little disclaimer. But I think it's going to be the last of the disclaimers like that I make, because that humility thing kicks in. And you're like, I don't want people to think I'm arrogant, blah, blah, blah. I'm arrogant right now. I love her. I'm looking in the camera like, you bitch. You see my pictures up there. I was like, let me just give me a season. Yes, Rashada painted that. You have to radical self-love. Radical self-love. I've been so hurt and disappointed by people, and it ain't because they trying to hurt and disappoint me. It's just because they're people and they not perfect. And as they can forgive themselves deeply, I can forgive myself deeply and understand that I'm just a bitch trying to make it. And all these things about me, people clown them and people don't understand me. Like, I understand me. I find me fascinating, and the journey to get to know me has been beautiful. You are going to waste away forever waiting on them to love you, waiting on them to appreciate what it is that you have to offer. They are going to scoff at your transparency, laugh at your sensitivities. They are going to want what they want, and they do not want you. They want uncomplicated, not unhinged. They want sexy and coy, somebody worth it to chase after, not you, not your basket full of damage and disaster. Baby girl, they do not want you, but I do. Come out here to me. Bring me your broken and your bitter. You don't have to whisper of your worth. I'm sold. I am your highest bidder. I am invested in your flaws. I forgive all of your mistakes. I am the one thanking God that He made you this way. I have your poster on my wall. I am so much more than your biggest fan. I've lost my voice countless times cheering you on from the stands, and I wear your jersey. Your smile is tattooed on my chest. I vow to be the one to always love you best. You are enough for me and perfectly complete. I love you a million times as wide as the gap between your crooked teeth, multiplied by the count of every single stretch mark. And you can add up every stupid decision and every unnecessary broken heart, and the math would still not equal the amount of air that fills my lungs when I see you. I breathe you. You are life to me. I want to prop a mirror up and watch with eyes wide open as you sleep. I want to move inside each of your steps, fall in sync with you. I am madly in love with you, and I am finally ready to shout it to the rooftops. You know, that pain you've been surviving with, I can make that shit stop. Oh, how I crave you, who you are when no one else is around. The same you a little anxious when surrounded by crowds. The same you with faded eyes can't seem to put those brownies down. The same you engulfed in melancholy. The same you who drowns. The same you who contemplates the razor blade sideways or down, baby. They will never know what it is to love you in the ways that I can. They will never know what it is to make love to you using only these bare hands, baby girl. They do not want you. You are too broken. You are too blue. Baby girl, they do not want you. You are not thin enough. Not the right hue. Baby girl, they do not want you. You are too much naked truth, baby girl. Whiskey girl. They do not want you, but I do. I want you and all of the blemishes on your skin, outside of those jeans you can't quite get your hips to fit in. I want you after days without a shower, no deodorant. I want you even when you are exhausted and spent, beaten down by life, distracted by sex and drugs. You never have to fret or worry that you are unworthy of love when they reject you, don't fuck with you, ridicule all that you are. Remember, you forever reside in my sky. You are the shiniest of stars. You are the sun plus the moon. You are all of the planets. I couldn't have made a better you even if I had planned it. You are more than everything. You are my enough, and there is nothing that you could ever do to fuck this up, baby. I got you. Oh, so relax. Live your life abundantly. I'm the only person in this world who has the power to truly set you free, and I love you unconditionally, sincerely, me. I love you all. Thank you so much. I love me. Oh, get there, women. We need it. That's what we need. Love on ourselves. Listen, the next is defining and unpacking childhood trauma. This is available to, I think it's the $20 and $30 rates from here on out because we getting a little personal in there. But this one might be another one available for the other tiers. So maybe I'm wrong. I'll look into that. But I'm glad I got this out. And the other one's dropping back to back. So we'll get into that. I love you guys. I appreciate the support. You don't know how much. And I hope this video has been valuable to you. Please leave me some feedback. I'd love to, post and get some more people supporting, this journey that I'm on, this art that I'm creating, what I'm trying to spread to, honestly, the world. I think I just accepted that about myself, that I'm just a little hippie. And I just want to spread some love and peace and joy. And we need it, especially in this time. And the best way to spread peace is to be peace. So this is the journey. I'm just so over the moon excited. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for your support.